In the return to learn, Columbia Public Schools have returned to 5-day-a-week in-person learning for the first time in more than a year. This morning, we are speaking live with Superintendent Dr. Peter Stiepelman about how the district is continuing to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you so much for being on with us this morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
How was the first day back fully in person? Were there any challenges or difficulties?
Yeah, it's great because, we wrote a plan in June and have been monitoring it all the way through. And this was the last phase. Last phase was 5-day in seat, something we've been really looking forward to. And so yesterday was that day. So we visited buildings. We got to engage with teachers and children and staff. And as you might expect, there was just, I'd say, a lot of jubilation. Were there challenges? Absolutely. I mean, it was the first day of the new quarter for middle school, so you had kids trying to find where their classrooms were in a much larger enrollment size, right? So kids were navigating the hallways, which had been a lot smaller. So, but for the most part, really great day, super enthusiasm, and so we're really proud.
That's awesome to hear. Now, did you see any traffic issues due to more families opting out of busing? And what % of in-person students ride the bus? I know you're encouraging them to maybe find their own transportation to eliminate more spread.
Molly, it appears you have read our plan. That is true. We do ask this year that if you can to transport your own child as a way to try to create physical or social distancing on buses. So yes, I noticed it quite a bit at the arrival and dismissal at schools that we saw a noticeably larger line of cars. I'm sure our community is seeing it as well. And so what percentage? Well, that's kind of hard because of the fact that while the state requires that school districts provide transportation if a child lives more than 2 miles away from their school if they're elementary and more than 3 miles away if they're high school. Actually, Columbia accommodates a much more accommodating process. So if you're a mile away at elementary or 2 miles away at high school, we provide it. And so a number of students also walk and bike to school already. So I would say probably about 60% of our students ride the bus, and that's certainly down as a result of parents really working hard to get their kids to school. But busing is provided if people need it.
And now the CDC also recently amended social distancing guidelines for schools to 3 feet. Is CPS following that model?
Actually, we've been following that from the very beginning. What we saw was a report from the World Health Organization, the WHO, as well as the American Academy of Pediatrics, the AAP, and they both also had said 3 feet from the very beginning. And so we had worked with the health department and other infectious disease experts who felt comfortable with that 3 feet. 6 feet has been used as part of quarantining and determining who's considered a close contact. And so we're working with the health department and have revised our plan to say between 3 feet.
We've been saying all morning long, it's also election day. There's been a lot of debate about the decisions school boards across the nation have made amid the pandemic. Do you have anything you'd like to tell voters as they pick who will serve on the Columbia School Board?
No, I think you've just said it exactly right. Across the nation, locally elected school boards have been challenged to make the very best decisions for the safety of children and adults. And that's exactly what this school board has done. And so tonight or today, throughout the day, you have the opportunity to elect 2 members of the board. We have an incumbent as well as an open seat as well. So there are, as noted, 5 people running for 2 spots. And I think any one of us in our community should be grateful and in great debt to anybody who offers to do this, which is a volunteer, non-paying job. And so I think any of us would be grateful for anyone who joins the Board of Education.
And now you actually just have under 3 months left in your role. How are you working with Dr. Yearwood, who is replacing you July 1st, to make that a smooth transition?
I'm glad you asked the question because as you were first asking, I was like, how am I dealing? I thought this was going to become a therapy session. And I wasn't sure if everybody in the listening audience was prepared for that. How's the transition going? Really well. Dr. Yearwood and we talk every Sunday afternoon, and then we talk every Monday morning, and then again on Friday. He is so incredibly engaged in wanting to be the very best superintendent for our school district. The transition is really important to him. I know that he's planning to put together a transition team that will include both internal and external stakeholders. And he's just asking all the right questions and trying to get the very best information. He's planning to come here later this month in April and have an opportunity to meet with the community as well as our internal leaders and teachers. And I say children, but he refers to them as scholars, which is a dignified way of thinking about our kids, future scholars.
That's awesome to hear. Maybe you can bring him by here too. Now, you're also visiting some classrooms this morning to hand out Teacher of the Year awards. Can you tell us a bit more about how these teachers have impacted education over the past year?
This is the very best day of the year, and I'm so sorry that we can't bring our mob of people that we bring into classrooms and surprise teachers. But this started in 1979. Ray Lewis, who was a board president for 18 years, he was on the board, I think, with Dr. Thompson, and he and his wife Jeannie Lewis, they started this fund. They raised the money themselves, and so this has continued to bear fruit. So there's a monetary award as well. Schools across the district have nominated individuals because our teachers are amazing, and so today we get the opportunity to recognize a few. One for kindergarten through second grade, or pre-K through second grade, third through fifth grade, middle school, high school, a beginning teacher, and then an administrator of the year. Oh, and a teacher in a specialized area. And so I'll be able to sort of surprise people, bring some flowers, talk to their students about just the wonderful things that their colleagues have said, parents have said, and children have said. But again, I note that I wish we could give this award to every teacher in the district because they are so deserving. Today we get to just elevate and recognize a few.
We noticed staff vaccination rates went up only 0.4% in the most recent update, bringing it up to 53.8% as of yesterday. Have all teachers and staff who want a vaccine had the opportunity to get one? And is Boone Hospital still planning any CPS-specific clinics?
Right. So there's a lot in that question, but you're right that it went up just marginally from the beginning of spring break. We'll send something out to our staff today that asks them to remind us if they've gotten their vaccine, because those who have participated with Boone Hospital, who has been an amazing partner with us, we know that although many of our employees have gone and found other ways or other locations to get their vaccine. So the only way we know is if they tell us. So we'll be reminding, because only 9 additional vaccines were notified about over break. So we'll try to get that updated this week. Have they been? Yes. I mean, we're really confident and feel really good about that. Our staff have been offered the opportunity to have that vaccine, and then that really does then speak to that we wouldn't have to quarantine an individual, one of our staff members, if they've been vaccinated. So if they've been fully vaccinated, meaning 2 weeks from their from their second vaccine, if it was Moderna and Pfizer, or 2 weeks after Johnson and Johnson, then they would not have to quarantine for 3 months. That's the window currently being given to us by the CDC. We'll be talking to the health department and asking them if there are any additional information about whether or not that window is being extended. But we're excited about that. The fact that in the past we worried about substitutes and things like that, and in this case it wouldn't be an issue.
Good to hear. And now, are you keeping track of any students 16 and older who have been vaccinated? And if so, how many are there?
Yeah, we have not been keeping track of student vaccines, although I am familiar with that students are going out, and those who are older than 16 and getting vaccinated, my own children included. And so that's good news. One of the things that we're looking at, though, is while it's not mandatory right now, either for adults or students, if the state begins to think about that differently, we might, or even if not, how we might do clinics similar to what we did for our staff and similar to what we do with the flu vaccine, is to offer clinics throughout the city for our own students to be able to become vaccinated. Right now, the rules have not changed yet in terms of whether or not they have to quarantine and things like that. And so we're closely monitoring that. We're closely talking to the health department, because every opportunity that we can update our plan, we will.
Now, are you worried at all about the spread of COVID-19 with spring break just ending and concerns of another surge due to the rising presence of variants?
I would say that the fact that I woke up at 2 a.m. and thought about emailing you a whole list of things that I think about all night, but you have your own issues to deal with. So we are concerned about that. I'm heartened somewhat by the fact that Thanksgiving and winter break did not yield the kind of concern that we did have in terms of an explosion of the vaccine of COVID. But what I would say is that, and I'm also encouraged by the fact that we can do a lot more outside now, right? So I went to visit some high schools yesterday. They were already kids were outside with their teacher, learning outside and things like that. So there are many more outdoor activities that can be done and things like that. So I'm not too concerned, but we certainly, every time I watch the news or listen to the radio, I hear about variants that are present in our nation. I'm somewhat heartened by the fact that the vaccine seems to be a protection to those. So, but yeah, we're ever vigilant in our concern and worries. But we're back. Our phase-in has worked, and we're really just excited to have our kids back 5 days in seat.
Awesome. Well, unfortunately, that is all the time we have this morning. Thank you so much for being on with us again, Dr. Stiepelman.
Thanks to both of you. Appreciate it.